Commander Kellic stared at the communication screen, his four eyes blinking in confusion. Something was wrong with the transmission from Earth. Very wrong. "Could you replay that last message from the human ambassador?" he asked his assistant. The blue-skinned Zolaxian nodded and tapped the console. The face of Jack Harris, Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, appeared on screen again. "We completely understand your concerns about our mining operations near the Proxima system," Jack said with a warm smile. "In fact, we've already begun scaling back our presence there. We wouldn't want to cause any discomfort to our Centaurian friends. Please extend our sincerest apologies for not considering the cultural implications sooner." Kellic's antennae twitched nervously. This was the third oddly pleasant message from humans this week. Usually, Ambassador Harris would argue, fiercely, cite obscure legal precedents, and generally make everyone uncomfortable before grudgingly agreeing to compromises. "Something is very wrong," Kellic muttered. "Pull up the records of human space traffic from the past month." As the data appeared before him, Kellic's concern deepened. The patterns were clear. Human ships were yielding right-of-way to smaller vessels. They were respecting boundaries around alien cultural sites. Most alarming of all, they were responding to communication hails with prompt, friendly messages rather than their usual delay tactics and grumbled acknowledgments. Kellic's communicator buzzed. It was a report from Agent Dorex, who monitored Earth's public broadcasts. "Commander, you need to see this," said Dorex, her voice tight with worry. "I'm sending footage from their global news networks." The screen shifted to show a human news reporter standing outside a tall building in New York. "A wave of extraordinary courtesy continues to spread across the nation," the reporter said. "Here at the United Nations, representatives report that meetings are finishing ahead of schedule, as nations work together with unprecedented cooperation. In related news, road rage incidents have dropped by 60% in major cities, and customer service complaints are at an all-time low." The footage switched to show a busy human spaceport. A cargo pilot was speaking to the camera. "Yeah, I noticed the Melnaxian breeding grounds were just a few light minutes from my usual route. No one told me to change course, but it seemed like the right thing to do. Those little guys deserve their privacy when they're spawning, you know?" Kellic shut off the screen. His scales had turned a pale yellow, a sign of extreme distress among Rigelians. "Get me High Counselor Vex, now." 20 minutes later, Kellic stood before the High Counselor in the secure chamber deep within the Galactic Council headquarters. The ancient Rigelian listened silently as Kellic presented his findings. "And you're certain this behavior is widespread?" Vex asked, his voice a low rumble. "Yes, sir. It's not isolated incidents. There appears to be a systematic change in human behavior patterns. They're being nice, consistently nice, without apparent reason or gain." Vex closed his eyes. When he opened them, he pressed his palm against a scanner hidden beneath his desk. A hidden compartment slid open, revealing an ancient data crystal glowing with a soft purple light. "In my 300 years of service," Vex said quietly, "I never thought I would need to access this protocol." "Sir? What protocol?" "The last time a level 4 species showed a sudden shift toward excessive courtesy was the Zygonian civilization, 3,000 years ago." Vex inserted the crystal into his console. 2 months after their behavioral change, they deployed a quantum consciousness virus that nearly destroyed all sentient life in the galaxy. Kellic's antennae went rigid with shock. "You don't think humans—" "I think," Vex interrupted, "that when an inherently aggressive, blunt, and confrontational species suddenly starts being polite, we have reason to be concerned." He activated the crystal. "I am initiating code polite, effective immediately." Across the galaxy, alarm systems began to activate. Cloaked warships silently moved into position around Earth's solar system. Surveillance drones disguised as space debris adjusted their orbits for better monitoring coverage. As the emergency protocols activated around him, Kellic received one more report. Captain Tim Lane of the human warship Intrepid had just allowed an Andorian medical transport to dock ahead of him at Ganymede Station, despite having priority clearance. "Because it's just the decent thing to do," the human captain had explained. Kellix had never been more terrified in his life. High Counselor Vex's chambers quickly filled with the most senior members of the Galactic Council. The ancient Rigelian sat at the head of the oval table, his usually calm demeanor replaced by an unmistakable tension. The Code Polite Protocol has been active for 6 hours, Vex announced. All major human settlements are now under surveillance. Counselor Zept, a tall Andorian with shimmering blue skin, leaned forward. Many of us weren't alive during the Zygonian crisis. Perhaps you could explain the exact nature of the threat? Vex nodded slowly. 3,000 years ago, the Zygonians were much like humans, aggressive, territorial, and blunt to the point of rudeness. Then, within the span of one lunar cycle, they became extraordinarily polite. They began apologizing for past conflicts, offering trade concessions and respecting cultural boundaries they had previously ignored. He tapped his console, and a hologram appeared showing the ruins of a once magnificent city. We mistook their behavior change for cultural evolution. We welcomed it. 2 months later, they deployed a consciousness-altering weapon that turned infected species against themselves. Billions died before we contained it. Kellix, standing at Vex's side, added, "The politeness was a distraction. While we were busy, being confused by their new behavior, they were preparing their real strategy." The door to the chamber slid open, and a human woman walked in. Several counselors reached for their weapons before recognizing Mary Dillon, the only human with clearance, to attend emergency council meetings. "Sorry I'm late," Mary said, nodding respectfully to each counselor. "I came as soon as I received the alert." Vex studied her closely. "Agent Dillon, you've lived among humans for 30 years. Have you noticed any changes in their behavior recently?" Mary looked confused. "Changes? Like what?" "Increased politeness, extraordinary courtesy, unprompted generosity." Mary laughed, then quickly composed herself when she realized no one else was smiling. "I'm sorry, but that's just... Humans aren't suddenly being nice. If anything, the opposite is true. My neighbor Frank yelled at me this morning because my garbage can was 6 inches over the property line." The counselors exchanged glances. Kellix pulled up a holographic display showing footage from a human space station. "This was recorded yesterday at Freedom Point Station. Please observe." The recording showed a human officer stopping to help an elderly Melnaxian who had dropped several packages. The human carefully gathered the items, asked if the Melnaxian was comfortable with the station's gravity settings, and offered to escort them to their destination. "That's unusual," Mary admitted, frowning. "Humans aren't typically that attentive to Melnaxians." "This behavior is now widespread," Kellix said. "Human ships offering to reduce speed near alien breeding grounds. Your diplomats making concessions before negotiations even begin. Even your military vessels yielding priority to civilian craft." Mary's face paled. "That's not normal. Something's wrong." Vex nodded gravely. "Precisely our concern. We've activated the full Galactic Defense Fleet. Cloaked warships are positioned around every major human settlement." "That might be an overreaction," Mary said cautiously. "Is it?" Vex asked. "Your species has a history of aggression. If humans suddenly change their fundamental nature, we must consider all possibilities, including that this is precursor to something more dangerous." A communications officer burst into the room. "High Counselor, you need to see this immediately." The main screen activated, showing a human cargo ship approaching a Draconian outpost. Draconians and humans had been in a trade dispute for years, often resulting in tense standoffs. "Draconian Outpost Delta, this is Captain Joe Benson of the Earth merchant vessel North Star," the human captain said with a friendly smile. "We're carrying medical supplies to the Orion system, but we heard about the drought affecting your colony. We'd like to offer 10,000 gallons of fresh water, no charge, just a gesture of goodwill between neighbors." The Draconian officer looked as shocked as everyone in the council chamber felt. "This is escalating," Vex said quietly. "We need to investigate directly. Assemble the Special Operations Team." Kellix nodded. "Who should lead it?" Vex's 4 eyes blinked slowly. There's only one team with the right experience. Contact Agent Zur, Dr. Melba, and Security Chief Grox. Tell them the fate of the galaxy may depend on discovering why humans are suddenly being so nice. As the council chambers emptied, Mary Dillon remained behind, her expression troubled. Something is very wrong with my people, she whispered to herself. Very wrong indeed. The small ship landed silently in a field outside the town of Portland, Oregon. Its cloaking device made it invisible to human detection systems and to the naked eye. The landing ramp extended, and 3 figures descended. Agent Zur adjusted, his holographic disguise, which made him appear as a tall human male with brown hair. In reality, he was a slender Valerian with pale green skin and large eyes that could see thoughts as colored clouds around people's heads. Next to him, Dr. Melba activated her own disguise, transforming from a 4-armed blue-skinned xenobiologist to an average human woman with blonde hair. Security Chief Grox growled as he pressed the button on his wrist device. The hulking Taurian, standing nearly 8 feet tall with horns and thick brown fur, shimmered and changed into a large human male with a bald head and wide shoulders. I hate these disguises, Grox rumbled. Can't we just stun all the humans we meet and be done with it? Dr. Melba shook her head. We need to understand what's happening to them. This is a research mission, not a combat operation. Agent Zur pointed toward a cluster of lights in the distance. Our informant lives on the edge of town. Let's go. They walked for 20 minutes along a quiet road until they reached a small house with a porch light on. Agent Zur knocked on the door. Sam Winters had been their reliable human contact for 15 years. A retired military officer with a perpetual scowl and colorful language, Sam had always provided valuable information about human activities. The team expected his usual gruff greeting. Instead, the door opened to reveal Sam wearing an apron over his clothes. The smell of fresh baking filled the air. "Oh my goodness, welcome, friends," Sam said with a wide smile. "Please come in out of the cold. I just baked some cookies." The 3 aliens exchanged worried glances as they stepped inside. Sam's living room, usually cluttered with weapons magazines and military memorabilia, was now clean and decorated with fresh flowers. "Please, take your shoes off if you'd like. I have slippers for guests," Sam said, pointing to a neat row of fuzzy footwear by the door. "Can I get you something to drink? Coffee, tea, hot chocolate?" Security Chief Grox's hand moved toward his hidden neural disruptor. Dr. Melba shot him a warning look. "Sam," Agent Zur said carefully, "we need to talk about some important matters." Of course, Sam said cheerfully. "But first, how was your journey? Not too difficult, I hope? And how have you all been? It's been at least 6 months since your last visit." For the next 20 minutes, Sam asked detailed questions about their well-being, their families, and their comfort. He insisted they try his homemade cookies and seemed genuinely hurt when Grox refused. When Dr. Melba finally managed to steer the conversation toward their mission, Sam smiled broadly. "You want to know about the changes in human behavior? Isn't it wonderful? We've finally realized how rude we've been to our galactic neighbors. There's really no rush to discuss it, though. Wouldn't you rather just relax and enjoy some time with a friend?" Grox pulled out his neural disruptor only for Dr. Melba to push his arm down. "Sam," she said gently, "this isn't like you. What happened?" Sam's smile didn't fade. "I attended this amazing class at the community center. Interstellar Etiquette with Ms. Judy Miller. It changed my whole perspective. You know, she's holding another session tomorrow evening. You should come with me." Agent Zur's eyes glowed briefly as he attempted to scan Sam's surface thoughts. The human's mind showed no signs of coercion or external control, just genuine enthusiasm and happiness. "We would love to attend this class," Agent Zur said slowly. "Where exactly is this community center?" Sam clapped his hands together. "Wonderful. Oh, we'll have such a good time. Ms. Miller is just the kindest person. After her class, I realized how unnecessarily grumpy I've been my whole life." As Sam went to the kitchen to get more cookies, the 3 investigators huddled together. "This is worse than we thought," Dr. Melba whispered. Whatever is causing this change seems to be spreading through voluntary social contact. I don't like it, Grox growled. The Sam I know once threatened to shoot me for sitting in his favorite chair. Agent Zur nodded grimly. We need to meet this Judy Miller. And we need to contact the council. The situation is even more serious than they realized. The Lakeside Community Center was a simple one-story building with large windows and a welcoming entrance. Agent Zur, Dr. Melba, and Security Chief Grox approached cautiously, still wearing their human disguises. A cheerful sign on the door read, Interstellar Etiquette Class tonight. Everyone welcome. Remember our cover story, Agent Zur whispered. We're new residents interested in improving our social skills. Grox grunted. I still think we should just grab this Judy Miller person and force her to tell us what she's doing to these humans. That approach lacks scientific rigor, Dr. Melba replied. We need to observe the phenomenon in its natural setting. They entered the building and followed the sound of cheerful voices to a large room. Inside, about 30 humans sat in a circle of chairs. At the front stood a middle-aged woman with curly red hair and a warm smile. She wore a simple blue dress and comfortable shoes. Welcome, newcomers, she called out when she spotted them. Please join us, we're just getting started. The three investigators took seats in the back row. Sam Winters, sitting near the front, turned and waved enthusiastically at them. Good evening, everyone, Judy Miller began. I'm so pleased to see both returning students and new faces. Today we'll be focusing on proper greeting protocols for different species and how to avoid unintentional offense during first contact situations. For the next hour, the team watched in growing alarm as Judy taught the class about alien cultural sensitivities with surprising accuracy. She explained the proper way to bow to Rigelian officials, the importance of avoiding direct eye contact with Valerians, Agent Zur shifted uncomfortably, and the correct hand gestures to use when meeting Tarians. Grox almost snorted in surprise at her knowledge. The humans in the class practiced each greeting with genuine enthusiasm, taking careful notes and asking thoughtful questions. Now remember, Judy said, when meeting a Melnaxian, always stand at least 3 feet away. Their sense of personal space is much larger than ours, and crowding them feels threatening even if you're smiling. Dr. Melba discreetly activated a small device in her pocket that scanned the room for unusual energy signatures, toxins, or mind-altering substances. The device showed nothing out of the ordinary. After the formal lesson, Judy encouraged everyone to practice with role-playing exercises. The room filled with humans bowing, nodding, and making various gestures as they pretended to be different alien species greeting each other. Agent Zur moved closer to Judy, hoping to get a reading of her thoughts. When he was near enough, he focused his telepathic abilities on her. To his surprise, he sensed only genuine excitement, passion for teaching, and a deep desire to help humans improve their interactions with other species. There was no sign of sinister intent or external control. Dr. Melba approached one of the human students, a young woman practicing Andorian greeting bows. This class is fascinating, Dr. Melba said casually. How did you hear about it? The woman smiled. My friend invited me. At first I thought it was silly, but then I realized how rude we humans must seem to aliens. I mean, we barge into their space, talk too loudly, ask personal questions. It's embarrassing. Judy helps us understand how to be better galactic citizens. Across the room, Grox was reluctantly participating in a role-playing exercise with an elderly human man who was practicing the formal Taurian greeting with surprising accuracy. As the class ended, Judy approached the 3 investigators with a warm smile. I haven't seen you in our community before. Are you just passing through? We heard about your class from Sam, Agent Zur said carefully, nodding toward their informant. It's very educational. How did you learn so much about alien cultures? Dr. Melba asked. Judy beamed. Oh, I've been studying xenoanthropology as a hobby for years. I finally decided to share what I've learned. Would you like to stay for tea and cookies? Everyone usually hangs around to chat afterward. Before they could answer, Sam appeared with a tray of handmade name tags. I made these for everyone. Next week's class is about appropriate gift-giving protocols across different species. You'll come back, won't you? The three investigators exchanged worried glances. Whatever was happening here was spreading rapidly, and it seemed completely voluntary. We wouldn't miss it, Agent Zur said with a forced smile. But we need to leave now. Thank you for the enlightening experience. As they hurried back to their ship, Dr. Melba checked her scanner readings again. I detected subtle changes in the human's brain chemistry during the class. Nothing artificial, but definitely unusual. They're experiencing elevated levels of empathy and oxytocin. You mean they're just deciding to be nice? Grox asked incredulously. It appears that way, Agent Zur replied. And that might be the most terrifying possibility of all. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 27 species shouted over each other as High Counselor Vex tried to maintain order. The emergency session had been called after receiving the investigation team's preliminary report about the human etiquette classes. Silence! Vex finally roared, his voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics. The room gradually quieted. We will hear the full report from Agent Zur. Agent Zur stood at the center of the circular chamber, his holographic disguise deactivated, to reveal his true Valerian form. Next to him, Dr. Melba and Security Chief Grox waited with their findings. Honorable Council members, Zur began. We have confirmed that humans across Earth are voluntarily participating in courses to improve their behavior toward other species. There is no evidence of mind control, alien influence, or sinister purpose behind this movement. A draconian representative hissed from her seat. Impossible. Humans do not simply change their nature overnight. There must be a hidden agenda. The evidence suggests otherwise, Dr. Melba said, stepping forward. Our scans show natural changes in human brain chemistry, increased empathy and oxytocin production. Nothing artificial or forced. The chamber erupted again in disbelieving voices. In the midst of the commotion, reports continued to pour in from across the galaxy. A human trade fleet had voluntarily reduced prices on essential medicines shipped to outer colonies. Human diplomats were apologizing for historical conflicts and offering reparations. Earth's military vessels were conducting courtesy patrols near vulnerable alien outposts, offering protection without being asked. Security Chief Grox displayed a hologram showing Earth's main military installation. Their weapon systems have been reconfigured, he reported gruffly. Instead of targeting capabilities, they now scan for signs of distress among alien visitors. What does that mean? Asked a nervous Zalaxian representative. It means they've turned their defense systems into hospitality monitors, Grox said, clearly uncomfortable with the words. They're using military-grade sensors to detect if visitors are too cold, too hot, hungry, or in need of medical attention. The council chamber went completely silent. This is worse than we feared, High Counselor Vex finally said. If humans can change their fundamental nature this dramatically by choice, what else might they be capable of? The unpredictability factor has increased beyond our ability to calculate. In a corner of the chamber, Mary Dillon, the human representative, cleared her throat. All eyes turned to her. If I may speak, she said cautiously. I've been investigating from my side as well. This behavior change seems to have started with something very simple. A book. A book? Several council members echoed in confusion. Mary nodded. A self-help book titled The Polite Planet, How Interstellar Manners Will Save Humanity, by an author named Alan Green. It suggests that humans have a poor reputation in the galaxy due to our rudeness, and that embracing extreme politeness would improve our standing. And humans simply adopted this idea? Asked a bewildered Melnaxian representative. It was featured on a popular morning television program, Mary explained. After that, it went viral, as we say. What started as a trend became a movement. People are genuinely embarrassed by how they've been perceived and want to change it. Agent Zur stepped forward again. This matches our findings. The etiquette teacher, Judy Miller, mentioned this book as her inspiration. She has no connection to any known threat groups or alien species. The council members began whispering among themselves. their expressions ranging from skeptical to terrified. A Centaurian diplomat rose from her seat. I propose we establish a quarantine around Earth immediately. If humans can decide to change their behavior this dramatically, who knows what they'll decide next? I second the proposal, said a Rigelian military commander. Their unpredictability makes them more dangerous than ever. Before Vex could respond, the chamber doors opened. A human diplomatic envoy entered, carrying a large basket for each council member, each containing items specifically selected for their species' preferences. On behalf of Earth, the lead diplomat said with a warm smile, we wish to apologize for any concern our recent behavior may have caused. Please accept these small tokens of our genuine desire for improved relations. The silence in the council chamber was absolute. Several representatives looked ready to flee. High Counselor Vex's scales had turned almost white with stress. The motion to quarantine Earth will be put to immediate vote, he said quietly. This situation may be more dangerous than any military threat we have ever faced. Agent Zur, Dr. Melba, and Security Chief Grok sat in their small ship, orbiting Earth as they reviewed their findings. The Galactic Council had voted to maintain surveillance, but had narrowly rejected the quarantine proposal. Now, the investigation team needed to dig deeper. We need to find this Alan Green, Agent Zur said, studying the holographic display showing the author's book cover. The Polite Planet, How Interstellar Manners Will Save Humanity, had a simple cover with Earth and various alien worlds connected by smiling face icons. According to human media records, he lives in a city called Seattle, Dr. Melba reported. He's scheduled to give a talk at a bookstore there tomorrow. Grox cracked his knuckles. Finally, we can grab the mastermind behind all this. We don't know that he's a mastermind of anything, Dr. Melba reminded him. He might just be a writer who accidentally started a social movement. The team landed their cloaked ship in a park near the bookstore and approached the building in their human disguises. A large crowd had gathered inside. At the front stood a thin man with glasses and a nervous smile. Alan Green looked nothing like an evil genius. He wore a cardigan sweater with patches on the elbows and kept pushing his glasses up his nose as he spoke. I'm just overwhelmed by how this book has resonated with people, Alan was saying to the crowd. When I wrote it, I just thought, hey, maybe we could all be a little nicer to the aliens we meet. The three investigators squeezed through the crowd. Agent Zur activated his telepathic abilities to scan Alan's thoughts. What he found surprised him. Anxiety about public speaking, genuine amazement at his book's success, and a slight sense of guilt about making money from such a simple idea. Doctor. Melba discreetly scanned Alan with her medical device. No unusual brain patterns, she whispered to her teammates. He's just an ordinary human. As the talk ended, people lined up to get their books signed. The investigation team joined the line, and when they reached Alan, Agent Zur asked, "What inspired you to write this book?" Alan looked up with a shy smile. "Would you believe it started as a joke? I used to be a con artist, nothing major, just small scams. I got caught trying to sell fake alien artifacts to collectors. During my community service, I had to help at an alien cultural center. That's when I realized how rude we humans often are without meaning to be." "So you wrote a book about it?" Grox asked suspiciously. "Not right away. I started studying alien cultures as a hobby. Then I thought, what if I applied the principles of a good con to something positive? A con works because you make people feel special, important, respected. I realized that's really all good manners are, making others feel valued." "And how did it become so popular?" Dr. Melba inquired. Alan laughed. "Honestly, dumb luck. A producer for Rise and Shine with Debbie Carter bought my book at an airport. She invited me on the show and things just exploded from there. Now I can't keep up with all the interview requests." After getting their books signed, the team retreated to a quiet corner of the store. "He's telling the truth," Agent Zur confirmed. "There's no plot here, just a former con artist who found a way to redirect his skills." "But the effect is spreading exponentially," Dr. Melba said, checking her datapad. "Look at these reports. Human. Ships offering free transport of medical supplies to previously hostile systems. military vessels escorting alien commercial ships through dangerous sectors, diplomatic corps organizing interspecies cultural appreciation events. Grox's expression darkened. So it's true. Humans really can just decide to change their behavior completely. Do you realize how terrifying that is? No other species can do that so quickly and on such a scale. Agent Zur nodded gravely. Species that was aggressive yesterday and cooperative today could be something else entirely tomorrow. The High Council is right to be concerned. As they left the bookstore, they noticed a group of humans helping an elderly Centaurian couple who were struggling with Earth's gravity. The humans were patient, respectful, and genuinely kind. "We need to report back immediately," Agent Zur said quietly. "The situation is even more serious than we thought. The humans aren't being manipulated. They're evolving, voluntarily, and rapidly. And there's nothing in our protocols for dealing with that." Dr. Melba watched the helpful humans with a troubled expression. "The scariest part is, they actually seem happier this way." The Great Hall of the Galactic Council fell into chaos as the investigation team finished their report about Alan Green. Representatives from over 200 species shouted over each other, their voices rising in a storm of worry and fear. "Order! I demand order!" High Counselor Vex's amplified voice finally cut through the noise. The room gradually quieted, though the tension remained thick in the air. "We face an unprecedented situation," Vex continued once he could be heard. "The humans' behavioral shift is not the result of outside influence or deception. They have somehow evolved their social behavior virtually overnight simply because they chose to." A representative from the Andorian Federation stood. "If humans can decide to change their fundamental nature so quickly, how can we ever predict their actions? Our entire defensive strategy is based on known behavioral patterns." "Exactly," said the military advisor from Rigel. "Every diplomatic protocol, every trade agreement, every security measure we've designed for dealing with humans is now useless. They've essentially become a new species without physically changing at all." The Melnaxian scientist, Dr. Zinn, adjusted her breathing apparatus before speaking. "From a biological perspective, this is impossible. Species do not change ingrained behaviors collectively without evolutionary pressure over generations. Yet, the humans have done it in weeks." High Counselor Vex turned to the investigation team. "Your assessment, then, are the humans a threat?" Agent Zur looked thoughtful. "They appear genuinely committed to improving their behavior. There's no evidence of hostile intent." "That's not what I asked," Vex said firmly. "Are they a threat?" Dr. Melba stepped forward. "High Counselor, any species that can fundamentally change its nature at will is inherently unpredictable, and unpredictability is perhaps the most dangerous trait in the galaxy." Security Chief Grox nodded grimly. "If they can decide to be polite this month, they could decide to be something else next month. Their potential for change makes them more dangerous than ever, even if their current intentions are benign." The chamber doors opened suddenly, and Ambassador Jack Harris of Earth entered. The human walked to the center of the room with a calm smile, carrying a small box. "Esteemed council members," Jack said, bowing respectfully in the Rigelian fashion, "I understand our recent behavior has caused concern. I'm here to address any questions you might have." Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. No one spoke for a long moment. Finally, Vex leaned forward. "Ambassador Harris, your species has exhibited a dramatic behavioral change. The council finds this disturbing." Jack nodded sympathetically. "I completely understand. Change can be alarming, especially when it comes unexpectedly, but I assure you, we humans are simply trying to be better neighbors in our shared galaxy." "But why now?" asked the Centaurian representative. "Why this sudden shift?" "We finally realized how we were being perceived," Jack explained. "For too long we've been the loud, aggressive species barging into galactic affairs. When Alan Green's book pointed this out, it struck a chord. We were collectively embarrassed by our reputation." Vex's antennae twitched skeptically. "And your military? Reports show your defense systems have been reconfigured." A gesture of trust, Jack said. We've redirected some of our scanning technology to better serve visitors to our system. Our defense capabilities remain intact, but we've added new priorities, the Draconian general hissed from her seat. A convenient explanation. Perhaps the real reason is more strategic. Jack's smile didn't waver. I've brought something to demonstrate our sincerity. He opened the small box he carried, revealing an ancient data crystal. This contains the access codes to Earth's early warning sensor network. We would like to integrate it with the Council's security grid as a show of transparency. Stunned silence filled the chamber. The sensor network was Earth's first line of defense. Giving access to the Council was unprecedented. We have nothing to hide, Jack continued calmly. And we believe greater cooperation begins with greater trust. High Counselor Vex stared at the data crystal, his scales shifting colors with emotion. Ambassador Harris, your offer is noted. The Council will deliberate on this matter privately. After Jack left, the Council erupted again. Some demanded immediate acceptance of Earth's offer, while others insisted it must be a trap. Others called for quarantine measures to be implemented immediately. Vex raised his hand for silence. Whatever we decide, one thing is clear. The humans have become the most unpredictable species in the galaxy, and that makes them the most dangerous, whether they're being polite or not. In the observation gallery, Mary Dillon watched with a small smile. The Council's fear was understandable, but they were missing the most important point. Humans hadn't fundamentally changed at all. They'd always had this capacity for rapid adaptation. They'd just never applied it to their manners before. 6 months had passed since the activation of Code Polite. In his office at Galactic Council headquarters, Commander Kellex, recently promoted for his handling of the human situation, reviewed the latest reports with a mixture of caution and growing respect. The monitoring screens showed scenes from across Earth's territory. Human trade ships were establishing new routes to previously isolated systems, bringing medical supplies and educational materials. Earth's diplomats had successfully negotiated peace agreements between several species that had been in conflict for generations. Even the notorious human pirates of the Kuiper Belt had changed their approach. They now sent formal notices before boarding ships and took only what they called a reasonable amount of cargo, often leaving thank you notes. Another report from Sector 7, his assistant said, placing a datapad on his desk. The human military vessel Intrepid intervened when a Draconian cruiser was attacked by Orion raiders. Captain Tim Lane not only drove off the attackers but stayed to help with repairs. Kellex nodded, his antennae twitching thoughtfully. And no request for payment or political favor in return? None. They simply stated it was the right thing to do and continued on their patrol route. After his assistant left, Kellex opened a secure communication channel to High Counselor Vex. The human situation continues to evolve in unexpected ways, Kellex reported. Their behavioral change appears stable and consistent. If anything, their courtesy and helpfulness have increased over time. Vex's aged face looked tired on the screen. And the spread to other species? Has that continued? Yes, Kellex confirmed. Species with regular contact with humans are showing measurable increases in cooperative behaviors. The effect seems contagious. Like a virus, Vex muttered. More like a cultural shift, Kellex suggested. The Centaurians who previously refused to share their medical knowledge have established a teaching hospital on Alpha Centauri, open to all species. They cited their productive discussions with human diplomats as the inspiration. Vex was silent for a moment. Keep the monitoring protocols active. I'm still not convinced this isn't leading to something more concerning. After ending the call, Kellex sat back in his chair. The truth was, he had begun to develop a grudging admiration for human adaptability. No other species had ever made such a dramatic cultural shift so quickly and consistently. His thoughts were interrupted by a notification. Ambassador Jack Harris had requested a meeting. When the human entered his office 30 minutes later, Kellex noticed something different about him. Jack still had the same friendly smile and respectful manner, but there was a new confidence in his bearing. Commander Kellex, thank you for seeing me on such short notice, Jack said with a slight bow. Of course, Ambassador. How can I help you? Jack placed a small data crystal on the desk. These are the efficiency reports from the Joint Earth Council projects we started 3 months ago. I thought you might find them interesting. Kellex examined the data and couldn't hide his surprise. These completion rates are remarkable. The Rigelian human engineering team finished the Tau Ceti space dock 2 months ahead of schedule? Yes, Jack said, smiling. Turns out when we stopped arguing about who gets credit and focused on combining our strengths, we worked together quite well. Kellex studied the human carefully. Ambassador, may I ask you something directly? This change in human behavior, is it sustainable? Or will your people eventually return to their old ways? Jack's smile widened slightly. An excellent question. I believe this change is permanent, but not because we're forcing ourselves to be something we're not. Rather, we've discovered that cooperation is actually more efficient than conflict. Being polite saves time previously wasted on misunderstandings. So, this is about efficiency? Kellex asked, surprised. Partly, Jack admitted. Once we started being more considerate, we noticed how much more we accomplished. It turns out that listening to others and respecting their perspectives leads to better solutions. Who knew? He chuckled softly. As Jack prepared to leave, he paused at the door. By the way, Commander, I understand the Code Polite protocols are still active. That's probably wise. After all, who knows what might happen now that we've discovered the power of efficiency combined with courtesy? His eyes twinkled with something that might have been amusement. After the human left, Kellex stared thoughtfully at the efficiency reports. The implications were both fascinating and terrifying. Humans hadn't just become polite, they'd weaponized politeness, turning consideration and cooperation into tools for advancement. And now other species were beginning to follow their example. Kellex sent a brief message to Vex. Keep the protocols active. The situation continues to evolve. In his private thoughts, he added, the galaxy may never be the same again, and perhaps that's not entirely a bad thing.